Again, Eleanor? Did you bring the whole library this time? I told you, it's a misunderstanding." My sister, Seraphina, laughed. It was a brittle sound like ice cracking under pressure, echoing in the vast, sunlit emptiness of her penthouse. She stood framed by a wall of glass, the city sprawling beneath her like a kingdom she had conquered. I watched her, this woman who shared my childhood but not my conscience, and I let her words dissolve into the sterile air. I placed 2 folders on the glass table between us. One was the colour of a clear summer sky. The other was a deep, angry crimson. I tapped the blue folder. "This folder is about the money. It maps the fraudulent path of every dollar from Chloe's fund into this apartment." My hand moved to rest on the red folder. My voice dropped. "And this folder, this is about my daughter. And it's why my patience is over. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone you were supposed to trust, hit that like button. You're not alone." To understand the weight of those 2 folders, the silence that followed my words, you have to understand the hollowed-out feeling of the weeks that came before. It all began in a quiet, air-conditioned office that smelled of corporate anxiety, with a piece of paper that felt like a death certificate for my daughter's dream. The bank manager, a man named Mr. Harrison, kept fiddling with his tie, his eyes darting anywhere but at me. Across his polished desk, my 14-year-old daughter, Chloe, sat perfectly still, her hands knotted together in her lap. Her stillness was a dam holding back a flood, and I knew if she broke, I would too. Mr. Harrison slid a statement towards me. I didn't need to read it. The image was already seared into my brain from the night before, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. A single brutal number, 0. 13 years of saving, 13 years of birthday checks from grandparents, of small, consistent deposits that were our quiet promise to her. All of it gone. Mrs. Vance, the transaction was by the book. It was authorised by a listed family member. There was only one other person on that account. A relic from when my father first opened it, a gesture of familial trust that now felt like a dagger. My sister, Seraphina Croft. That name hung in the sterile office air. Seraphina. It wasn't just a string of letters on a page. It was a flood of memories, a torrent of summer afternoons, secrets whispered behind closed doors, promises to always have each other's backs. I remembered all the times I had defended her selfishness, calling it ambition. I remembered the suspiciously expensive gifts she'd give, the spontaneous trips I never questioned how she could afford. Each of those memories was now an indictment, a warning sign I had blindly ignored. A cold, sharp guilt began to creep in. I should have seen this. I should have protected Chloe better, not just from the world, but from her own family. The physical room seemed to fade away, leaving only that name, printed in black ink, an undeniable testament to a truth my heart refused to accept. The drive home was a silent film of grey streets and indifferent traffic. Chloe stared out the window, her reflection a pale, ghostly image against the passing city. The silence was thick with the question I knew was choking her. As I turned into our driveway, she finally whispered it. "Mom, does this mean I can't go to art school?" Each word was a tiny shard of glass. Her dream of attending the Rhode Island School of Design wasn't just a teenage fantasy. It was the core of who she was, the world she built for herself in countless sketchbooks. And I had just watched the light in that world flicker and dim. I forced my voice to be steady. "I will fix this, Chloe, I promise." But as she walked into the house, her shoulders carrying a weight no child should bear, the promise tasted like ash in my mouth. A wave of nausea washed over me, born from a betrayal so deep it felt like it had fractured my bones. It wasn't just the theft, it was the casual, smiling cruelty I knew must have accompanied it. The fact that my own sister could look at her niece's vibrant future and see only a path to a more luxurious present for herself. I found her exactly where I knew she'd be, holding court at the centre of an adoring crowd. It was a high-profile charity gala for the city's art museum. The irony was suffocating. Seraphina, a woman whose greatest creation was her own facade, playing the part of a great patron of the arts. She was wearing a backless black dress that shimmered under the chandeliers, laughing with some city councilman, a champagne flute poised perfectly in her hand. I stood there in the shadows, watching my sister shine. But I no longer saw a beautiful woman. I saw an itemized invoice in human form. That black silk gown, those were the summers Chloe went without a vacation, so we could put a little more aside. That diamond necklace sparkling at her throat, those were the advanced art classes Chloe had to pass up. Every luxury she wore was bought with a piece of my daughter's stolen future. And no one in this room knew. They were applauding an illusion, while I was the only one who could see what it truly cost. For a heartbeat, I considered turning around. The idea of causing a scene, of shattering her carefully constructed illusion in front of all these people, was terrifying. But then I saw Chloe's face in my mind and my spine turned to steel. "Seraphina, I need a word with you." Now! Her smile faltered for only an instant. With practiced grace, she excused herself and led me to a secluded alcove. The party's chatter faded to a dull roar. "What is it, Eleanor? You're causing a stir." My voice was a low, tight wire. "You took Chloe's money." She didn't flinch. She took a slow sip of her champagne, her eyes cold and dismissive. "Don't call it taking, Eleanor. It's an investment. Money needs to move, not sit gathering dust in some conservative fund. I'm reallocating family resources. Reallocating." The word was so clinical, so detached, like she was a fund manager, not a thief. That was her college fund, Seraphina. Hers. For 13 years we built that. She sighed, a puff of theatrical exasperation. "You're just too emotional. You don't understand how wealth works. You have to be aggressive. You'll thank me when the returns come in." Emotional? The word echoed in my head, an insult so profound it left me speechless. You call protecting my child's future emotional. You call a mother's love, the force that built worlds, a weakness. No, Seraphina, it's the only thing in this world with real value. A concept that you, in all your hollow wealth, could never afford, and will certainly never understand. I didn't say the words out loud, I just stood there, my silence a wall her shallowness could not breach. That was it, the final, chilling confirmation. There was no remorse, no guilt. In her mind, she was entitled to it. I took a step back. That wasn't just money, it was a promise. It was her future. And you cashed it in. She just shrugged, a small, elegant gesture. You worry too much. Now, if you'll excuse me. And with that, she turned and glided back to her audience, leaving me in the shadows. I was a fool for thinking I could appeal to her heart. It was terrifyingly clear she didn't have one. The days that followed were grey and muted, like a photograph left out in the sun. I was functional, I made lunches, I paid bills, I existed, but it was like watching myself from a great distance. The helplessness was a constant physical pressure in my chest. In my old life, as a forensic accountant, I had thrived on untangling deception. I chased numbers through firewalls and shell corporations, and the truth was always a satisfying, logical conclusion. But this was different. This was a wound in the heart of my family, and logic seemed to have no place there. The lawyers I spoke to were kind but discouraging. They spoke of discovery periods and depositions. of a timeline that stretched into a bleak, expensive future. All the while I could picture Seraphina living her best life on the ruins of my daughters. I felt like I was standing before a thick wall of fog with no way through. In my desperation, I sought refuge in the last place I felt any sense of order, my father's study. The room still smelled faintly of old books and his logical clarity. I sat amongst his meticulously organised records, not truly searching, but hoping that some of his wisdom, his clarity, might seep into me through the quiet air. I needed a path through the fog, a sign that justice wasn't just an abstract concept. The breakthrough came on a rainy Saturday, not from a legal document, but from the quiet sadness of my own child. I was in my father's old study, a room I'd barely touched since he passed, surrounded by the ghosts of his life in the form of old books and financial records. Chloe wandered in, holding a mug of tea, and just stood there watching me. She was scrolling listlessly through her phone. She let out a small, bitter sigh. "I don't get it," she muttered mostly to herself. "Aunt Seraphina is bragging about her new apartment, but she took my money. It just feels wrong." Her words hung in the dusty air. I looked up from a box of old tax returns. My focus narrowed. I set aside the emotion in her voice and honed in on the information. "Wait, Chloe," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "A new apartment? When did she buy it?" She wordlessly handed me her phone. On the screen was Seraphina's Instagram feed, post after post of sweeping city views, minimalist furniture and smug, smiling selfies, all tagged from the same luxury high-rise. I scrolled down, my thumb moving faster and faster, until I found the first one, the new home announcement. I looked at the date. It was 2 days after Chloe's fund had been emptied. It's not hypocrisy, it's a balance sheet. A debit on one side, a credit on the other. My daughter just gave me both sides of the equation. Now, I just have to find the equal sign. The fog of despair that had clouded my mind for weeks evaporated, replaced by the cold, clear light of purpose. The grief was still there, but now it had a direction. It had a target. My daughter had given me the starting point and the finish line. All I had to do was draw the map that connected them. That night, as I sat before my computer, I felt a strange sense of a familiarity, the feeling of coming home. The pain was still there, a dull ache beneath my skin, but it had been converted into something else, fuel, pure, high-octane focus. The numbers on the screen were no longer dry characters. They were singing a song of deceit, and I was the only one who could hear the melody. I forgot about time, forgot about the exhaustion pulling at my shoulders. Coffee became my only companion in the silent house. The computer screen reflected in my eyes at 3 a.m., tired but burning with a cold fire. This was no longer a job, this was a crusade, and I would not rest until the ledger was balanced, down to the very last cent. That night my quiet home office became a war room. The skills I had packed away with my business suits came roaring back, and there was a grim satisfaction in letting them loose. My old instincts took over. The wire transfer didn't go to her name. It went to a sterile shell company, Aura Design Imports, LLC, the oldest trick in the book. A few database searches confirmed my suspicions. The company was a ghost, registered just 6 weeks ago, but she was sloppy. Through a discreet inquiry with an old colleague, I traced the digital breadcrumbs from the company's registration right back to a single source, the internet connection at her new penthouse. The public property records were the final nail in the coffin. The down payment, wired from her shell company, matched the stolen amount to the cent. I leaned back in my chair as the first rays of dawn crept through the window. The chain of evidence was complete, cold, and unbreakable. The printer hummed, spitting out page after page of my sister's betrayal. I compiled it all into the sky blue folder, then I paused. It was a solid case for a civil suit, but it could be messy, long. Seraphina could still try to spin it as a misunderstanding. I needed something more. I needed to see how she would react under pressure. Her personal email, the one she rarely used but that I still had saved from years ago, was my target. From a newly created anonymous email account, I sent a message directly to Seraphina's personal address. The subject line was blank. The body of the email was empty. There was only one attachment, a single damning screenshot, the wire transfer from Aura Design Imports to the escrow company for her penthouse. I hit send. Then I waited. I had laid the bait. Now I would see if she was desperate enough to walk into the trap. The silence that followed was a different kind. It wasn't the silence of despair, but the tense, humming silence of a hunter in a blind, waiting. I had sent my message into the void, a single targeted shot, and I knew it would hit her with the force of a physical blow. A formal letter from a lawyer can be deflected, negotiated. But an anonymous email with a piece of impossible evidence, that was a ghost in her machine. It meant someone was watching, someone knew. And she had no idea who or what they would do next. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was the principal of Chloe's school. My blood ran cold. "Mrs. Vance, I don't want to alarm you, but we had a small incident at dismissal today." My voice was tight. "An incident? It involved your sister, Seraphina." She approached Chloe in the pickup line. Chloe did exactly the right thing. She didn't engage and came straight to the office. We have a strict policy about non-custodial adults, so we escorted Chloe out the back and logged the event. I closed my eyes, a wave of white-hot fury washing over me. It was so much worse than I could have imagined. In her panic, Seraphina had done the one thing I never thought she would. She had crossed the line from stealing my daughter's future to threatening her present. "Is Chloe okay? She's fine." A little shaken, but she handled herself with remarkable maturity. The principal paused. For security purposes, our external cameras captured the entire interaction. We can make the footage available to you upon a formal request from your legal counsel. "Thank you," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I appreciate you letting me know." I hung up the phone. The house was silent, but my mind was screaming. She just gave me what I was missing. Financial evidence can be argued in court. Lawyers can spin narratives and create doubt. But a video of an adult stalking a child outside her school, that's not evidence. That's a verdict. My next call was to my lawyer. I wasn't hiring him to sue. I was hiring him to be a courier. "I need you to send a formal request to my daughter's high school. I need the security footage from the front entrance today, between 3 and 3:30 p.m., and I need it delivered to me by tomorrow morning." He started to ask questions, but I cut him off. "No, we're not filing a suit yet. We're finalizing an offer she can't refuse. Get me that tape." The next morning, a messenger delivered a small package to my door. Inside was a USB drive. I didn't watch it. I didn't need to. I took the drive and placed it inside the crimson-red folder. My plan had been to expose a thief, but Seraphina, in her desperation, had exposed herself as something far worse. She thought this was a war against me, but she had just declared war on a mother, and that was a fight she had already lost. I walked into the penthouse without knocking. The click of my heels on her marble floor was the only sound. She appeared from the kitchen, champagne flute in hand, her face a mask of practiced annoyance that didn't quite hide the panic in her eyes. "I thought I made myself clear, Eleanor." I didn't answer. I walked past her to the glass coffee table and placed the 2 folders down, side by side, the blue one and the red one. She glanced at them, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. "What is this?" I finally met her gaze. "This blue folder is the financial proof. It's enough to ruin you." She started to laugh, that same brittle, dismissive sound from before. "A family arrangement, you can't prove intent." I held up a hand, silencing her. I let her protest hang in the air for a moment before I tapped the crimson folder. "But this red folder, with the footage of you at her school, this will ensure you never come near my family again." I watched the colour drain from her face. I saw the moment she understood that this wasn't just about money anymore. "So, here's the new deal, Seraphina. You will sign over the Penthouse. You will sign a permanent restraining order, effective immediately. You will balance the books, both financially and morally. You wouldn't." The words were a hoarse whisper. "You'd be destroying the family." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I felt a cold, calm fury settle over me. "Destroying the family? You did that already. This isn't destruction, it's a correction. The books will be balanced, Seraphina. Your only choice is how." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the faint hum of the city below. Her mask was gone, shattered. For the first time I saw her not as my glamorous, untouchable sister, but as a desperate, cornered animal. I pointed to the folders. "You have until noon tomorrow. My lawyer is expecting your call." I turned and walked toward the door, not looking back. I didn't need to. I could feel the weight of her world, the one she had built on lies and theft, collapsing behind me. The next few days were a quiet agony of waiting. Then, on the third day, the email arrived. A simple automated notification from Vanguard. A massive deposit had been made into Chloe's account. It was the full equity from the Penthouse. She had signed. That evening I sat on the edge of Chloe's bed and told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she looked up, her eyes clear. "So, the money is coming back?" I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. "It is." A slow, brilliant smile spread across her face. The light was back. We spent the rest of the evening looking at art schools online, the screen glowing with possibilities. A week later, a friend sent me a link, an online auction, Penthouse content auction. Every piece of Seraphina's curated life was being sold off. Chloe peeked over my shoulder. "Mom, am I supposed to feel bad for her?" I pulled her into a hug, resting my chin on her head. "You can feel compassion for her loss, honey. Just never mistake it for her remorse. Some debts can be paid with money. The debt of trust lasts a lifetime. Now your future is your own again, intact." And in that moment, I knew it was true. The ledger was finally balanced. My world, once broken, was whole again, built back stronger on the unshakable foundation of a mother's promise. Eleanor gave her sister a choice to avoid jail time, focusing instead on getting the money back and protecting her daughter. If you were in her shoes, would you have made the same choice? Or would you have gone straight to the district attorney to ensure Seraphina faced the full legal consequences? Let us know your verdict in the comments below. This was a story about a mother's promise and the cold reality of betrayal. If you believe that intelligence and determination are the ultimate forms of justice, subscribe to Whispers of Revenge for more stories where the ledger is always balanced in the end.